As a kid growing up, watching TV on the weekend with my dad, that would be the thing to do. The Rugby Beyond, Formula One, and if we were lucky, there might be a Bond film on TV. Ironically, because I'd had a huge crash racing in 2007, I'd broken all my ribs. I couldn't race. I was out, basically laid up. It was going to be a good month or more before I could get back in a racing car and be able to cope with all the G-forces. But within a week of being flown back from Romania, I got a phone call. I've been trying to get into movies for a while and made a few phone calls here and there, and everything kind of came back together, and I got to work on my first major feature film, which was National Treasure 2, doing some doubling for Nicolas Cage and also driving a thing called a pod car where you sit on the roof. Ended up working on this, that was my first experience working on a big movie. Biggest car chase in London's history. I think we destroyed 20 police cars and all that. Was amazing and just completely different to working on TV. Much bigger crews, huge stunt teams of 25 people, amazing sense of humour and professionalism. So it was such a good team, great fun to join. And following that, I ended up getting asked to go and work on Quantum of Solace, the Bond movie, which was Daniel Craig's second film. Something you don't say no to, but it's an incredible opportunity, an honour to be asked to go. Got out to Italy, not knowing what we would be doing. Went to another airfield, which is a dominant factor in my life, is turning up at windswept airfields. And they had a bunch of cars. We had about 12 Aston Martins and 8 Alfa Romeos. And the chase was going to be originally 3 Alfas chasing Bond in an Aston. If you watch the film, there's only 2, because a lot of the early footage we shot with 3 was cut out. Someone just said, Ben, you're Bond, in the car, get in there, go do this, go and start rehearsing. Getting to the first shooting day, wearing a pinstripe suit and the Amiga watch and all that stuff, getting into the sort of dressed up as a character to work on that chase was just a pinch yourself moment. It was 3 months. We were filming around Lake Garda and Carrara. It's the big marble quarry there, and getting used to the Aston DBS, which is this phenomenal piece of kit, V12 engine, roughly 500 horsepower manual, which the boys had fitted with a hydraulic handbrake, so you could do some wicked stuff with that, and it's a super pliable machine. And one of the coolest days in that early on was the stunt coordinator was Gary Powell. He's done enough movies to know that one of the weakest components can be the car. So he's right, go and take it to the track and find out what breaks on it. So just drive it, and drift it and slide it and just keep at it. And it turned out to be completely indestructible. You could just do anything with it, and the car wouldn't overheat. The differential wouldn't fall apart. The gearbox didn't start crunching. It was just really robust. So it was kind of Aston Martin had come of age with that model. And even though it looked very similar to the DB9, the DBS had enough subtle differences in it that made it, in my view, it felt like a completely different car. It was slightly tighter suspension, better brakes, ABS system. It was just more advanced. You could be right on the limit with it. Sharper inputs all round. Everything was just slightly better, and as a whole, it made it very fresh car and beautiful looking thing. It was an unbelievable experience getting used to that. So effectively, what you, as a stunt driver, you fill in for the bits that require risk management that's a different level to what you want the actors to be in. But Daniel was heavily involved with his parts in it and doing his driving, and got to work with him, seeing him behind the wheel for his scenes. So that was a pretty special part of it. But the mistreatment of the cars does take getting used to, because with films they say, to make an omelette you've got to crack some eggs. Still, if you're sitting in a brand new car and someone turns up with a Stanley knife to butcher the dashboard to replicate bullet hits, and they take a rock and beat it down the side of the car to mirror a scene that's just happened where it scraped a wall, it's pretty hard to watch with a $250,000 car that's being totally ruined. But it's fun at the same time, and it means you get to do stuff you'd never be able to get away with legally. So the chases were pretty amazing. I mean, speeds of up to and over 120 miles an hour through these tunnels, through and around Lake Garda. So you would be pinpoint accurate. That's where you sort of learn the level of detail of preparation and rehearsals that go into those moments to make sure that everything, the timing is very honed. Everybody knows what they're doing, what their role is, where to be and when. And it's pretty magical. And the comms side of it as well is very, very, it's almost like a military operation. All the different teams, from camera team to production and the multiple stunt teams. We had a local Italian team plus the team that was mostly from the UK but international, all working together like clockwork. It's a pretty amazing thing to be part of. The great thing with Bond is they don't do CGI. I think that was a thing they did a bit of that in the 90s, but in the modern era, it's all shot in camera. They get those cameras right in there, and they get these visceral shots because they're willing to tear it up. The scenes are real, and I think that's what audiences still flock to see. There's, sure, you're still entertaining watching movies that have got large elements of CGI. I find it a bit of a turn off in a car chase. If you suddenly get a big dollop of a fake car, you kind of, what am I watching? Is it something real or not? I think you can't fake gravity. It's very hard to replicate what it looks like when a car is hit or sliding, and also what's believable. And I like being rooted in reality. So I think a lot of audiences that you I don't know, you kind of project yourself into these situations, even though you'd have no chance of surviving any of these things in reality. But it's good to suspend the disbelief and enjoy it. And then for that, you need to be hooked into reality. So you worked on Skyfall in the Defender, so a little bit slower than the Aston, but still pretty awesome. So that we were in Turkey for a big chunk of that. We did a few scenes in London. Where some terrible things with a Jaguar when they were leaving London in a hurry. But that was great. I mean, I love Land Rovers, so that was pretty cool. We had the open tailgate model, and most of the time with that, I was on the roof, so driving some podcast stuff. And we had Naomi also doing the driving in a lot of those scenes. So it was really cool. But we were skidding around in it, and the Land Rover's great until you put a ton of weight on the roof, and then it kind of is thinking about tipping over. So the special effects team worked very hard with that to do what you need to do, which is lower it, extend the wheelbase out, so widen the track. And we used lower profile tyres, so it didn't want to go over so much. And it was a different experience, but still there were times when we had to drive it as it was and just consider what was going on. And up on the roof, it's a completely different experience. You do feel more detached. There's different steering systems you can use. Sometimes you can use like a remote steer, which has got a sensor that relays information and data to a control unit, so they're not physically linked, or hydraulic systems where you have that feeling, but it is more like a boat because you have whatever steering you put into it, you have to unwind it. It won't naturally return due to caster angles or anything like that. You have to unpump the pump effectively. So they're very different. So there's latency. You kind of adjust to that. And it does feel like you're sitting on top of a tractor. It's way up there. The cool thing is, though, you can see a lot more. So you've got great vision, like those cameras. If you're reversing, sometimes the cars have the little camera on the top. So that's kind of you. So if you're doing stuff like reverse J-turns through traffic, it's actually quite good because you've got better vision than everybody around. It is a very weird sensation getting used to very exaggerated forces because it's multiplied kind of 3 times. When the car leans, you feel 3 times the effect. So you need to adjust that bit in your brain that's processing that. But then you're away. It's a lot of fun. The third one I didn't do very much on was Spectre, but I did a bit of driving in the DB5 in that and something else. And I drove another pod briefly, but I didn't do much on that film. And then I was back for the scenes in Matera with No Time to Die. I'm sure we had one more location for that. So that was, that was great to be back in. There was a crazy surface in Matera. The guy's gone out there and it was like polished stone, basically. It was potential to be the slowest car chase ever filmed because there was just no traction. So everything was kind of like dancing on ice. I'm not sure whose idea it was, but the production came up with this way of making the cars grip more by spraying Coca-Cola or some kind of soft drink onto the surface, which the tyres stuck to, which was great. The only thing was you had to keep topping it up. So as you'd be doing these runs, they kind of would wear off, and then even with it, it was gripping, but in an unconventional way. So the tyre would kind of squirm across it and slowly kind of grip into this surface, but it felt like it was going to break free, but it didn't. So it was quite unusual way to drive, but it was amazing. So super tight streets. It's a holiday destination. So if you look at Matera, they're these grotti everywhere, these sort of properties that are built in, or made of stone, built into the rock. Very tight streets. I don't know how old the places are. They're 1,000 years old. It's an ancient city. Really built for tourism these days and not for a massive crew of people to turn up with helicopters, drones, people on loudhailers yelling instructions and a bunch of cars skidding around and blowing stuff up. But that's what happened. It was pretty awesome. So there's great scenes that were shot there. The special effects that went into designing the DB5 to produce that were off the charts. And the respect for these guys, the ability to, the car looks exactly like the original machine, but the internals completely different. I've done enough films now to see that their genius is hiding this magic underneath, so you can't see it, the audience can't tell. But it's, again, a million times better doing it for real than putting something on that's fake. This chassis is, I'm going to get this wrong and My friends who built it are probably going to shoot me down, but effectively it's a space frame chassis. So, but I'm sure there's some honeycomb structure in it as well. So it's completely bespoke. But the engine's in the front, as it would be in the DB5, but more power and way lighter. So the structure of it is obviously completely different to the original. I think it's carbon fiber bodywork. So again, lighter weight, but painted to a Class A grade finish. So way lighter. So the power to weight ratio is cheeky. Hydraulic handbrake, of course, because you need that, and skinny wheels. So the thing just is a drift bus, and off it goes. They're an amazing piece of kit, but beautiful. But inside, pretty rough, pretty primitive, as you would expect on a stunt car.
When you get a ticket, it might look something like this, but the first thing that you need to do is take a picture of that ticket and send it to 305-305. That will get the ticket clinic on your case immediately. They've got brick and mortar offices in Georgia, Florida, and California, but they can help you find a ticket no matter where you get it in the United States by helping you find a local attorney that will do everything they can to help you avoid costly fines, insurance premium increases, points on your license, risk of suspension, even jail time. They've helped me out with this ticket and many others, and a lot of my friends as well. So check them out now at the link in the description below, or again, text your ticket to 305-305 to get the ticket clinic on your case. They are the perfect partner in your fight against any speeding ticket.